Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session, Keep Teaching with Confer Zoom. I'm Michelle Pacansky-Brock, and I'm faculty mentor for online teaching and learning with CVC-OEI, which also includes @ONE, for those of you who are familiar with the work of @ONE. We do have a link for the slides that Helen is going to put in the chat, so you can have access to these slides. They have been designed to be a resource, a learning resource for you. So you're going to find lots of links in them. There's even videos in there. So if I touch upon something rather quickly today, it's because we do have a lot to cover and we do want to leave time for some interaction and questions. So if I do skip over something, I just want to reassure you that if you revisit the slides, you're going to find resources to help you dig a little bit deeper into some of those topics. Hang on a second, there we go. So a few essentials just to kick us off. Your microphone will be muted during the session. That is because we do expect to have a pretty big group. Right now we've got, already up to 249 people in the room. So that's a pretty big group. So muting everyone really does help with the audio quality. We encourage you to enable your webcam if you think that's appropriate for your environment. We know that everybody is in a different place than they usually are working. So use your discretion with that. We encourage you to also apply that same approach when you have students joining you in Zoom too. Also, number 3, we will be pausing for questions 3 times during today's session. This is designed to be a 90-minute session. We would like you to hold your questions until those breaks. And at that time, we'll ask you to put them in the chat. And I'll say this again when we get to those moments. But if you could include a question mark at the very beginning of your question, it will help us visually be able to sort through the chat and identify what questions there are to answer. So what are we going to be covering today? First of all, we're going to just take a step back and ask, what is temporary remote instruction and how can we prepare for it? Kind of a new phrase for our teaching vocabulary, right? And then we're going to get into the getting started with Confer Zoom, which will include how to create an account, how to customize your account settings, scheduling meetings. We'll look at some of the basic features for teaching with TechConnect Confer Zoom, and that will include the mobile app, speaker and gallery views, chat, share screen, how to record your sessions, which I'm doing now, and then some of the more advanced features that really help bring interactivity and active learning into your virtual classroom. And that includes the whiteboard feature, which is more important to some disciplines than others. Group annotation, which can be fun for some collaborative activities, and we'll demonstrate one of those. Virtual backgrounds, which can be just a fun way to kind of bring in another setting, maybe, take students to a place that they're learning about, and also polls. And speaking of polls, we are going to actually launch one here. Now that you've taken a look at what we're going to be covering today, I would like to know what interests you out of these 3 topics: getting started, basic meeting features, and advanced meeting features. If you could select the topic or topics that are of interest to you today, it will help me to understand what your needs are. So you should be seeing a poll on your screen now. On my end, I can see that 150 people have already chimed in.
Can we choose more than one?
Yes, you're going to select the topics that are of the most interest to you today. So choose as many as you like. I know it says multiple choice. It's very confusing, I agree, but it should allow you to choose more than one because that is the way I set it up. Thanks for asking. So we're about 83% of everyone has voted. We're at 241 out of 284 people. It's really slowing down now, so I'm going to give you a 5-second countdown. 5.
Where is the poll? I don't see a poll.
4. So the poll does open in another window. I'm sorry if it's gotten lost on your screen somewhere. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to select End Poll. And now I'm going to choose Share Results. And you should see the results there. So there's a lot of people that selected all 3. But it looks like there's a little bit of a heavier weight towards the basic meeting features and the advanced meeting features. So that's just helpful to know, and that's a good thing to think about when you're starting a session to gather some of the background knowledge of your students about the topic that you'll be discussing. So I'm going to stop sharing that, move that out of the way, and continue. This is a really ugly slide, I know, but I'm showing it to you because, as I mentioned at the start, these slides have been designed to be a resource for you. So you can open these slides up on your own after the session and use these links to kind of dig into the slides and navigate through some of the resources that you need to brush up on. But let's get started with just a brief consideration of this new term that is being used quite a bit these days, right? Temporary remote teaching and learning, or remote instruction. Different phrases have been used, and how do we prepare for it? Up until now, we have had 3 types of instruction, 3 types of courses in our system: face-to-face teaching and learning, which is the courses that student to instructor interaction and student to student interaction occurs completely in a classroom on a campus. Online teaching and learning, where that interaction occurs completely online. And hybrid, or sometimes called blended teaching and learning, where the interaction is mixed between face-to-face and online modality. And now we have temporary remote teaching and learning. The goal of this modality is instructional continuity, right? It's when we are faced with a scenario that kind of disrupts our plan, and so we need to pivot and come up with a different one. So let's take this scenario, for example. I imagine this is probably something that many of you can relate to. Let's say you're teaching a 16-week face-to-face course, and you learn that you're going to need to shift to online instruction due to an emergency in week 11. So what do? Well, your first step is to take a step back and assess the situation. Think about where we've been and where we're headed. Identify what's left. So think about what's ahead of you with your course, what topics remain, what assignments remain, what assessments remain, and organize those into modules in Canvas using pages, assignments, and quizzes. This is our recommendation. I realize everybody's going about this a bit different, and also different institutions have different approaches that they're recommending. And then this is where our session today comes into play, holding live sessions using TechConnect, Confer, Zoom. And that's a great way, if you're someone who doesn't have content for your course, it's also a great way to really ensure that there's still interaction between you and your students, and interaction between students themselves as well. And so we want to be demonstrating some of those effective practices in today's session. So first, we're going to take a look at how to prepare for your, ignore that. First, we're going to jump right into some of the basics. I have a checklist for teaching with Confer Zoom that we've put together, and it is going to be a little bit of a deeper dive than some of the slides I'm going to cover. And it is something that's available for you to just simply take a look at if you want to click on the link in the Google Slides at the top to view the checklist. If you click that bottom link that says make a copy of the checklist, it'll prompt you to sign into your Google account and then actually create a copy of the checklist in your account that you can modify, print, check off, do whatever you'd like to do with. So oftentimes we have people ask, what's the difference between Zoom and Confer Zoom? So let's start there because it's a basic but very important question. Zoom is a public company. It's a product. It's a product that enables video web conferencing at a distance. And it also has a desktop application and a mobile app. Now, TechConnect Confer Zoom is a statewide supported version of Zoom that is only available to California Community College faculty and staff. And yes, someone asked in our last session, does that include part-timers? Absolutely. And by signing up for a TechConnect Confer Zoom account, what it does is it gives you an upgrade. It gives you a free upgrade to a pro Zoom account. And that's what you need to teach with, okay? It's provided through CCC TechConnect, which is funded by our California Community College Chancellor's Office. As I mentioned at the start, I work for CVC-OEI. So TechConnect is a partner program in our system. And while the team that I'm on doesn't actually support TechConnect, we do provide pedagogical support for using different technologies in online teaching and learning. And I'm sorting that out for you because we do have a co-host, Donna, here from TechConnect, and she's the person who I consider the expert on TechConnect Zoom, Confer Zoom. So if we have any questions that come up that I'm not able to answer, Donna can answer them. And if there's anything that I say that needs clarification, Donna will step in and clarify. And I'm very glad that you're here today, Donna. So that's the difference. Did you have something to say, Donna?
No, just thank you.
Oh, okay. You're welcome. Thank you. When you are in a Zoom session, there are two roles that are fulfilled. There is the host role, which if you are teaching with this tool, that would be the instructor. Right now, I'm in the host role, and that's the user that scheduled the meeting. The host needs to be logged into their Confer Zoom account prior to starting the meeting, so they're recognized as the host. And they have access to meeting controls and settings that the attendees do not have access to. And that's some of what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So the attendees, all of you who have joined today, you are attendees. Okay, so your students would be the attendees. Right now you're in a student role. Those who are invited to join the meeting, and this is very important, that second bullet point, attendees or students do not need an account, okay? That's important, and I really want to stress that because Donna said last time we met, we are in such a time of overload right now, and TechConnect support is trying so hard to respond as quickly as possible to all the support requests they're getting, and they're getting flooded with requests from students to have accounts created. So please know that you do not have to direct your students to create an account. And attendees can join from a computer or a mobile device by clicking a link, and they can also connect to audio through that device, the phone or their mobile device, or by or through a phone. Now, if you are ready, or if you haven't done this yet, I should say, to get your Confer Zoom account, you're going to go to conferzoom.org and select the sign up button, and you'll see the form that's illustrated here on this slide. You will complete that form using your college email address and verify your account by clicking a link in the automated email that you receive in that email. The button or the link to sign up is actually also included at the bottom. I don't recommend that you do that now because I would prefer that you stay focused on our virtual classroom, but you can do that as soon as we're done. When your account is verified, after you sign up, you go to your email, you click the link, you verify it, here's what you should do. You should go out to the zoom.us website and sign into that account. That will take you to the profile page of your account, and we strongly recommend that you add a photo of yourself. That's because when you mute your webcam, or if you don't enable your webcam in a session, that photo will appear, and it's just a much stronger way of including your presence. It's a little bit softer than just kind of seeing your initials. So we really recommend that. And you can also take a look at this time at your personal meeting ID, which is just below your photo. This is a link that stays constant all the time, and it's a link that you can use on the fly to join in Zoom and just open a random meeting if that's something that you have a use for. Below that, there's also an option to set up a personal link. I know this is not readable on the screen, but essentially the personal link could be like, for example, your name at the end, and that personal link would point to it would basically function the exact same way as your personal meeting ID. Okay, so another thing that we recommend, and this is where the checklist will really come in handy, that is on one of the earlier slides that I pointed out. There are some features in the settings area that allow you to enable certain features in your Zoom meetings. The chat is one that should definitely be turned on. I believe that's on by default, but it's worth stopping and checking out. You can choose to turn on the file transfer option if you'd like to be able to share files in the chat with your students, and also students would be able to do the same. There's a feature for polling that you'll want to turn on if you'd like to use the polls in Zoom. If you don't turn the polling feature on at the account level, and you won't even have an option for polls. So that's something that's really important to know. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Whoops. I've got the most sensitive mouse in the world. Okay. There's a screen sharing feature that will allow you to toggle to allow all participants to share also. That is something that I have enabled at my account level, but right now I have it turned off in the meeting just because I was getting ready for a very big group, and I've learned from other really big Zoom sessions that people like to share their screen and then it gets really kind of confusing. So I'll show you on a later slide how you can control that at the meeting level also. There's an option for annotation that allows participants to add information to shared screens, which we'll take a look at later. But if you turn that on at the account level, you can do that in your meetings. And then there's also the option to allow participants to share a whiteboard on their own end. And we'll talk about the whiteboard in a little bit. And then there's one more level of those meeting settings that's called In Meeting Advanced. And the one feature there that I really encourage you to turn on is the breakout room feature. And we're going to be demonstrating the breakout rooms in this session today. It's, I think, one of the best parts of Zoom is allowing students to actually break into small groups and have small and have discussions, deeper discussions with their peers. So you're going to have an opportunity to actually participate in a breakout room a little bit later. So let's talk about some options for scheduling your virtual class meetings. I've heard from a number of folks at the college level that, you know, there are a lot of faculty right now who are pivoting to online, moving to remote teaching and learning, and they don't use Canvas. So I do want to have you stop and ask yourself, you know, do I use Canvas? Do I plan to use Canvas? Because there are a couple of different ways to go about setting up the links for your sessions. So if you do not plan to use Canvas, you'd want to use option 1. If you do plan to use Canvas, which is what we strongly recommend, you can use actually option 1 or option 2 that I'm going to walk you through. And these are the slides that do have videos on them. They're very brief videos, but they're going to walk you through exactly how to do this. So I encourage you to view them later. But for option 1, and this is the one that if you don't use Canvas, you can go right into zoom.us. So the same place that I mentioned earlier, where you'll go in to set your profile picture and set your meeting preferences at the account level. And you'll sign into your account there. What we recommend that you do is, I'm going to actually show you this real quick. Let me go over here. I'm signed in already, so I'm just going to click on my account. And this is what I was going to show you right here. And Donna, you correct me if I'm wrong, but you'll want to check here next to user type. And if it says licensed, that's how you can confirm that you're signed into your Confer Zoom account. Donna, do I have that right?
You have that right. Just recently, Zoom changed the labeling. Many people say, but I don't have a pro account. A pro account is the same as a licensed account. You have unlimited meeting minutes and up to 300 people. So as long as you see that 300 capacity, you're good.
Yes, thank you. And some people get a little confused because they went in and signed up. If you just go to zoom.us and sign up, Zoom, the company Zoom is going to say, sure, you can sign up. Here's a free account. Well, if you sign in and go to this page in that account, it's not going to say licensed. And this number here is going to be much lower. I don't know what it is for a free account. And you're also only going to have meetings, I believe, that last 40 minutes if you have a free account, then your meetings will end. So you definitely want to be sure that you're logged in. First of all, that you signed up for the Confer Zoom account and that you are logged into it before you go on to the schedule meeting section. And then from there, what you'll do is just go over to meetings. You'll choose schedule a new meeting. And this option is going to show you how to set up a recurring meeting. So you can kind of think about it as a virtual classroom for your course. So, oops. You can call it something like Math 1A Virtual Classroom. And then what you do down here where it's asking you when do you want your meeting to start, you select recurring meeting. And under recurrence, choose no fixed time. Next to video, we encourage you to have your webcam enabled. So if you choose yes, it will just automatically enable. But for participants, we advise that you select no because students really need to have the option to opt into using their webcam. Trust me on that one. It's not a good idea to have students' webcams turned on by default. So go ahead and select that option. And then when your students join, you can give them the option to turn on their webcam and you can tell them how to do that. You'll want audio to be, next to audio, you want to select both. So students have the option to join from the sound, from the telephone, or from their computer audio. And if you select enable before host, which is an option, you don't have to, but if you do select there, then if students click on the link before you join, then they will be in the room together. So that's just an FYI. Those are my suggested settings. Donna, do you want to add anything to that?
No, the only caution would be that enable join before meeting means a student can go in at any time that meeting is open, and particularly with a recurring meeting. So if you happen to choose that you want to record automatically to the cloud, keep in mind that every time somebody pops in and leaves, it creates another recording, and then you're looking at many, many recordings in your account. And if you are a Canvas user, only the first recording will download. So it might be that one student who was diligent in making sure they were ready and popped in for 30 seconds and left.
That is a great comment. My advice with recording is to not select record the meeting automatically to the cloud, but you do have to remember to manually click the record button then. So if you're going to have students joining, you know, you can even reach out to a student and say, hey, could you do me a favor and remind me to click record at whatever time? And that's kind of a fun way to include your students as well. But thanks for pointing that out, Donna.
As well as then you're recording without what you just recommended, then your recording's only going to contain the real content that you want students to look at, not 5 or 10 minutes of chit chat and socializing.
Exactly. That's definitely a much more effective way to do it, I believe. And so then you just click save. And there's your link. So this is the link that you can take and share with students. Again, we strongly recommend sharing that link inside of Canvas. You know, if you're not using Canvas and that's a different scenario, then you want to get it to your students another way. But we don't recommend putting it out on a public site. It is something that you want to keep available only to your students as much as possible. And so you have, well, I keep looking at the chat and I'm trying to stay focused on my slides just because I know there's a lot to get through. Okay, so that is option one. And then as I mentioned, you can take that link, you can put it inside your Canvas course. For a special touch, you can create an image, include that image on the page, add some alt text and link the image to the Zoom link. And that's just kind of a way of creating a nice visual button inside of Canvas. Sorry, my slides keep jumping around there. And now we're going to look at option two. So remember, option one was for those who aren't using Canvas. Option two is the recommended workflow for those of you who are using Canvas. And it involves going into Canvas and using the Confer Zoom integration in Canvas. It's available to you if your college has set up the Confer Zoom integration in your college's instance of Canvas. And doing this creates a separate meeting with a unique meeting ID for each class session. One of the benefits of doing it this way is that it really ensures that your meeting links remain secure inside of Canvas, but it also allows for you to have access to attendance report for each session. And you can have access directly to your meeting archives inside that integration as well. The first step, this is a 1-minute video that I'm not going to play right now, but the first step is actually going in and just adding Confer Zoom into your course navigation menu. It's a simple process. Oh my goodness gracious, I'm so sorry, folks. It's a simple process, and if you are unable to do this step, as I say in my video, it means that it hasn't been set up by your Canvas admin at your college. So that does have to happen at the college level for this to work for you. I'm gonna stop sharing just momentarily because now I'm demonstrating how to forget to do things. When you share a screen, it is important to select share computer sound if you want your audience to hear a video. So I am going to play part of this next one. Once you have that Confer Zoom app in your course navigation menu, you can schedule your meeting. So I'm going to show you part of this video.
This video shows how to use the TechConnect Confer Zoom app in Canvas to schedule meetings with your students. Go to your course and select Confer Zoom in the course navigation menu. The Event Calendar tab shows a list of all upcoming meetings you have scheduled. As you can see, I don't have any yet. So to get started, what you'll do is select the Schedule button. From here, you can schedule a single meeting or set up multiple meetings at once. I'm going to show you how to set up multiple meetings. First, give your meeting a name. To set up meetings at your regularly scheduled class times, select Daily and choose the days of the meetings, as well as the time. Choose the start and end dates. And the duration. Mine is set up to schedule meetings that will occur every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 o'clock and last an hour and a half. Select Save. Your meetings are now scheduled. Now what you see is information about the upcoming meetings. So over here on the right side, we see that I've got 2 meetings coming up, one on the 24th and one on the 26th. This is the link to the meeting, and you'll see that each meeting has a unique ID. So it is important to go into Canvas and enter the Confer Zoom area to join the meeting. Don't just copy one link and think it's going to be the same for the whole term. Over on the left side, the app will also present you with the 2 next upcoming meetings. The Prepare button simply allows you to launch Zoom and open a meeting so you can get comfortable with the interface. So if you click there, Zoom will open. I'm going to go ahead and end that meeting. Clicking there isn't going to ruin anything. It just gives you an opportunity to try out the interface. When it's time to meet with your students in Zoom, what you're going to do is come back to your Canvas course and select the Confer Zoom link in your menu. And you'll see that the Prepare button has changed to a blue Host button. That means that's the next meeting that is on your calendar, and you simply click that button to open Zoom and connect with your students. 2 more quick things. After a meeting has occurred, as long as you have cloud recording enabled in your Zoom meeting settings at the account level, you can come back to Canvas, select Confer Zoom, and click on Event Recordings to access those recordings. Also, in the Event Attendance tab, you will find an attendance report for each virtual class session.
Okay, hopefully that helps a bit there with how that works. Again, you have that video available to you. And again, I'm going to check in with Donna. Is there anything you'd want to add to that, Donna, or correct?
No, I think that's quite clear.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
I just want to reiterate real quick. I put a note in chat, but our support site has a Canvas instructor guide for using Confer Zoom that will answer all of your questions. So I encourage you to get familiar with it and learn things that you didn't know.
Great, thank you. I do believe I have that linked on one of my slides, but I know I've got a lot of slides and a lot of links, so it does not help. It doesn't hurt to point that out again. So as I hope you've noticed, we do have a live captioner present in our meeting here today, which we're very fortunate to have. Hold on one second here. Just realized my bookmark bar was showing. And if you are going to be having a live session that you have a student participating in who needs hearing support, you can request live captioning for that session. It does need to be requested at least 5 days in advance. And the link for doing that, for adding the captioning, is at the bottom of the slide. But if you go to Confer Zoom and click on support and search for captioning, or search for guide in the guides area, you'll certainly find it there as well. There's lots of different ways to get to it. And then when you start your meeting, just a quick FYI, the captioner will join as an attendee, and that person will be actually named captioner in your participant list. So it will be very easy to identify who that is. What you'll want to do is assign rights to that person to caption. And you can simply click on the CC closed caption icon in your toolbar and choose assign a participant to type, and then select that person. And then that's really all you have to do. It's pretty wonderful. It works great. We also really encourage you to ask students to download the mobile app before you get started. That's a resource that is really, really helpful to students. If they were to click a Zoom link from their phone, the app would download anyway, but it's good just to kind of do that in advance. So what questions do you have, folks, about this portion of the presentation? We're going to pause now and take a few minutes for questions. I can almost guarantee you with a group this big, we're not going to get to everyone. But if you have a question, here's what I'd like you to do. Type or click on the chat button in your Zoom toolbar to open the group chat. And then at the bottom where it says type message, type a question mark and then type your question. So Eddie, I'm going to show the interface. You've asked, how do you mute everyone as an instructor? You do that from the participants window, or you can actually go into your meeting settings and have that set up for every meeting if you want to do it that way. but there's a simple way, and I'll show you a screenshot of it in just a little bit. How to enter roster into participant list. I do not know how to answer that question. I'm sorry. Let's see here.
While you're looking, I'll answer one. There isn't a way to mute the chat. And so that's why Michelle is giving guidelines and directions for how she wants you to use the chat, because in a big group, it can get kind of messy.
Yeah, so the chat is a really great way for students to have a back channel. If you really wanted to, you could go into your meeting level settings and turn it off. I wouldn't recommend that. But there is no way to mute it. There is a way to close the window out. You should be able to close the window if you find it disruptive. Some people do say that about the chat.
Michelle, I do have a little bit of different information.
Okay.
As the host, when you are in the chat window where you would direct a message to everyone or to an individual privately, there is an icon with 3 dots. And if you click on that, you can select participants can chat with nobody, with the host only, or with everybody. So you do have an option on a per meeting basis.
And I see that now that you pointed that out. So thank you.
Every day we all learn just a tidbit more.
Yeah. Thanks for that tip, Donna. So again, that's a host control. Okay, let's see. When muting everyone in the beginning, can we individually unmute students? Absolutely. You have control at the granular level, at the user level, through the participant window. You can go in and select who to unmute. And I'm going to demonstrate that at the end of the session. You'll see that you have the option to raise your hand actually in participants. So that's a good way to kind of to moderate questions. If you want students to be able to speak, you could say raise your hand, and then you can call on them and unmute them, and then unraise their hand. Let's see. Do I need to invite participants when I create a scheduled Zoom from within a class or in Canvas, or will students be automatically invited to Zoom? So they actually, I don't know, Donna, let me answer this in 2 ways. You should always communicate with your students when there's something that they expect to do. The messages that your students receive from you will resonate in a different way. Students get notifications about lots of things. So if they see a notification, and I'm going to ask Donna if they do get one because I don't know the answer to that, it is important for you to notify them. And so if you're using Canvas, what we recommend that you do is post an announcement about an upcoming session. It's also a great idea to put it on your course calendar in Canvas so it appears there, and so students can see it at a glance on the calendar too.
So I can answer that as well, Michelle. When you set up your Confer Zoom session in Canvas, it's going to appear there for the students to view. So your communication will be to educate them on going to Confer Zoom and seeing your scheduled events and when they can join. The bonus is that both you and your students have account settings in Canvas on the Confer Zoom page where you can subscribe to email notifications. So they can automatically be notified that an event has been scheduled or an appointment has been scheduled, and use that as their poking means. But of course, the more places you can remind people, the better.
Thank you. That's good to know. Donna, would you like to answer the question, should I use Confer Zoom individually for each school I teach at?
Yes, every school that you teach at has a different Canvas shell, so you need a Confer Zoom account for each college where you're teaching. They are not merged at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to answer a couple more questions and then we'll move on. I'm sorry, folks. Just to reiterate, yes, this is being recorded, so we will have the archive available via cvc.edu/resources. You do have access to my slides. I'm going to ask Helen again to put the link in the chat. We've shared it several times already. So
It's already there.
okay, great. Thank you. And If I mute all participants, will they be able to unmute themselves and ask a question? Yes, they will be able to unmute themselves and ask a question, unless there's one more setting there's a setting to allow participants to unmute themselves, and that will be set as a default. If you go in at a deep level in the meeting and take that off, then I believe they will not be able to unmute themselves. Donna, do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay, so there's lots of settings. I think we all understand that now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and keep moving forward and talk a little bit about the basics for facilitating your virtual class sessions. The first thing I want to start with, because I think this is very, very important, is to just take a step back and recognize that this is a super stressful time for you. We know that. And it's also a very stressful time for students. I have a son who's actually enrolled in a community college in California, and he's having a very, very difficult time getting his arms around what's happening and just feeling very frustrated. So I think it's really helpful and vital to remember that, and remember that the process of learning involves both cognition, remembering and understanding, as well as emotions. And so when we have this flare up in this kind of like area of stress and frustration, it directly interferes with our learning. So the more we can really encourage, use a very welcoming tone and be very supportive when you're in Zoom, that can be really helpful. So take time to greet your students, be friendly, encourage them to turn their webcams on if they feel comfortable doing that. And if they do turn their webcam on, then, you know, say, oh, it's so great to see you today, Carlos, or just really go out of your way to celebrate your students' presence in your virtual classroom. Ask them how their day is going, or start with a fun icebreaker prompt. You can have them put answers in the chat. I have a little interactive group annotation example that we'll take a look at in a minute that you could use also. Try to speak slowly and clearly as much as possible. Encourage multiple ways to participate. Remember that students, people learn in different ways, but also some just have different styles, and some are going to feel much more comfortable just using the chat. Others will really want to use their microphone and ask a question. So try to think about ways to navigate both of those and make it as inclusive as possible for your students. Stop every 10 to 15 minutes and ask if there are questions. It's a good way to break things up, but also be sure that you know, you're staying on track and that students are with you. And try something new each time. As you're going to see in this session, there's so much to do in this interface, and we definitely want to encourage you to keep growing and learning as well. Remember that you're going to make mistakes because you are human. I have been using Zoom for many, many, many years regularly, and I still make mistakes every time I use it, and I just kind of accept that. And I still get nervous, so expect those nerves to be there. When it comes to video, when it comes to sharing your webcam, which again, we really encourage you to do, give a little bit of thought to these 5 tips on the screen. You don't want there to be a light source behind you, because then you're going to appear in shadow. So think a little bit about the light in your room. Go into Zoom early and see how it looks. Be aware of what's behind you. The background can be a great way to show a little bit about who you are. You know, maybe you're in a setting where you're working from home, because we are all at home these days. But just take a look at what's back there and be sure that you're okay with everything back there being shared with your students. Your microphone really matters, and a real great simple way to kind of hone in and control the quality, get a better quality sound, is to just use earbuds with a built-in microphone. These days, most of us have those for use with a smartphone, and that works really, really well. Just plug it right into your laptop if you're using a laptop. There's also USB microphones as well that can be purchased and used. Be real. Again, as I said, don't try to be perfect, because you're not. You're going to make mistakes. It just makes you more relatable to your students. And know that it feels super weird to look at a webcam. I'm looking at my webcam as I'm saying that, but it does get better with time. So just keep telling yourself that. Okay, so beyond that, to get into some of the features, you already know what chat is. We've been using chat since the beginning of the session. Chat can be great as a back channel for student-to-student interactions. It's great when students start sharing, you know, I learned about this in another class, or that reminds me about this other thing that we learned about. So keeping chat enabled and really encouraging students to do that can really make the experience more interactive for them. You can also have private interactions enabled if you want your students to have those interactions. It can be helpful for some students because some students aren't going to feel comfortable asking the whole class for a question, but they might feel more comfortable reaching out to a peer and saying, you know, asking that question. So you use your discretion with that, but that is an option in your account settings. Of course, it also fosters student to instructor interactions. And as we've already modeled, it's helpful to ask students to put a question in front of their message if it's a question for you. So that way you can start to distinguish them. And the more frequently you remind them and use that strategy, the more it will just become a norm in your virtual classrooms. Chat can also be a great way to share links to additional resources to dig deeper. You could share those or students could share them. And if you have the file sharing feature enabled in your account settings, that's something that you can do through chat as well. The participants feature, again, the host, well, everybody sees a list of who is present. And on the host side, it shows whether the mic or webcam is enabled. And that's also where you can go in and actually enable or disable either one of those. So you have full control. At the bottom, there's an option to mute all. So someone asked that question and this is what it looks like. So this is what it looks like at the bottom of my participant window. I have these buttons down here and one of them is mute all. And then if you go over to more, this is where you can choose to enable mute participants on entry. If you're having a lot of background sound as people are coming in, that's really simple to do. And that's where you can enable or disable, allow participants to unmute themselves. I don't recommend this one. I don't know why I have that selected in my example. Play, enter, exit chime. I have to change that because that gets really disruptive if you hear this ding every time someone comes in or someone comes out. So I personally, that kind of drives me crazy. Yeah, and so that's some of the features that you'll find in the participants window. Okay, sharing your screen is something that I'm doing now, obviously. It's a feature that you definitely want to master as the host because you're certainly going to have content that you're going to want to share with your students. That might be PowerPoint. It might be your browser window if you use Google Slides, if you want to walk them through how to use a website. Basically, you can share any application. In this example here, you see that it shows PowerPoint open here. This is Microsoft Word, right? So whatever is open on your computer, you can choose to share. The first step is just to click the green share button, which you are not seeing on your side right now because I have it disabled for everyone, but you'll have a chance to try it out shortly. And then you choose what you share because this window will pop up. It's like your buffet of sharing. And so Zoom takes a look at everything you've got open on your side and it shows it to you in the form of thumbnails, and you choose the thumbnail that you want to share. And then you click share. Do you see this little where the arrow is pointing in the lower left screen of that share window? You probably can't read it, but it says share computer sound. That's the button I forgot to click before I shared my video with you. So I had to stop share and go through those steps again. So if you are going to share something like a video with sound, then you definitely want to click there. And then when you're done, you just look for the red stop share button and it, believe it or not, stops sharing. So that's how sharing works. There is an advanced feature that I mentioned. This is what I have enabled right now because we were anticipating such a big group. If you're the host, you can go into your Zoom toolbar and click on that caret or that little upward arrow next to share, and then select advanced sharing options, and you'll see this light gray pop-up window emerge. And from there, under the who can share option, you can choose either only host or all participants. So if you have all participants enabled in your meeting settings, that will be the default. You can come in at the beginning and toggle it over to only host if that's what you want for that portion of the meeting. And then when you want students to share, you can toggle back to all participants. Okay. Recording is really simple. The hardest part about recording is remembering to do it. So I really like the idea of having a student remind you. I always put sticky notes on my screen to remind myself, but then I find myself just trying to move the sticky note. And so the more you do it, the more the habit is formed. But to record, it's very simple. You simply locate that Zoom toolbar and you click on the record button right on the toolbar. There is a pause and stop feature, so you can click there if you want to kind of take a break from recording and then start it again. And after your session has ended, Zoom will process the recording and you'll get an email when it is available. If you've recorded to the cloud, which is my favorite option, it's wonderful. When you get that email, it'll take you to a cloud recording. And this is what it looks like. It's a window where you'll see the visual of your recording on the left side. And then Zoom creates an interactive transcript of what was said during your meeting. It's machine transcription, so it's not 100% perfect, but it's pretty darn good. And you can actually search the transcript for keywords and jump through the recording by clicking into the transcript. So it's pretty cool. And you can also edit. If you do see like an error that is kind of reoccurring, you can go through and edit the transcript if that's something you'd like to do. Now, if you are planning to reuse a recording, it is important that you download it and upload it elsewhere for captioning. 3C Media is a great resource for faculty. That's another TechConnect resource for hosting media. And you can have media captioned if you do upload your files there. Canvas Studio is a tool that some colleges have a license to, and then YouTube is also an option. And if you're wondering why you should do that, well, it all comes down to what your plans are for that archive. It'll stay in the Confer Zoom cloud recording for 1 year. And then after that time, it will go away. So just keep that in mind with regards to what your plans are for using the archive. Okay, so questions about the basics. Let's take some questions now about the features that we just talked about. I'm gonna go down. Is there a storage limit for recordings? That's a great question, Hannah. Donna, would you like to answer that?
Certainly. Your Zoom recordings will stay in Zoom for a year. So we highly recommend that if you do not have a 3C Media account, that you obtain one, and then the recordings that are important to you download onto your desktop as an MP4 file, then you can upload it into 3C Media. And if I reflect back on Michelle's previous comment about audio transcript and captions, the audio transcript saves you from having to request captions when you send it to 3C Media because it's already there.
Okay, so in that case, would you recommend them download it from the cloud recording and then share that over to 3C Media when they upload it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the recording, if you recorded a session today and it was very important to you, it's going to remain in the Zoom cloud for the year's time period, but you can also download that to a local copy and then upload it into 3C Media, both the recording and you'll see your audio transcript file as well.
Thank you. Donna, someone else has asked about whether or not 3C Media has funds to caption videos again. Those had kind of been depleted. Do you know if that has been re-enabled?
That I can't answer. I'm focused on the Zoom side, so
I can understand why. Okay, thank you.
Heather is in, and she just responded. 3C Media has no caption funding at this time.
Okay, thank you very much for answering that question.
You're welcome.
Let's see, how do students access the recordings? Well, if you're using the Confer integration in Canvas, Donna, do students have access that way through the recordings? If they go through Confer Zoom?
Yes, in their Canvas shell on the Confer Zoom page, there is a tab labeled Recordings, and any of the recordings will download there. Of course, keep in mind now with the extremely high volume, the processing and downloading of recordings into Canvas is taking longer than normal, so please be patient.
Okay, thank you for that. And if you aren't using the Confer Zoom interface, it's going to be a matter of getting the link out to your students. So Canvas is a great way to set up in your modules a place to share the archive directly with students from a particular session. That is certainly what we would recommend. So I'm going to take a couple more questions and then move on. Can closed captioning be in another language, for example, for language teachers? I believe we had that question last time, and I believe the answer was no. Is that correct, Donna? That's not available?
Correct, not through our caption service, but you can obtain your own caption services to give you foreign language options.
Yes, yes. And someone has asked, does recording start when you press record, or does record save a session from the beginning? So that depends on how you have your account settings set up, or I should say your meeting settings. You can set the meeting to start recording from the beginning, but as we mentioned, then you're going to have a lot of dead time at the start of the recording that isn't ideal. So for the best recording, it's better to just click the record button when you're ready to start going in the meeting itself. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and keep going. So we're now moving into the advanced features, and we're getting closer to the more interactive time, so it's going to be a little bit more fun for you. The first feature that we wanted to just touch upon is polls, and if you were with us in the first 5 minutes of the session, you participated in a poll at the beginning. Polls are a great way for keeping a session interactive. They can be used for lots of things. They're quick knowledge checks during a class session, just to be sure that your students are comprehending as you expect them to be. They can also be a little bit more of a summative check at the end of a session to see how the information was understood by your students. They can be used to gather group opinions about topics and lots of other things. I'm sure you can think of lots of creative uses for polls, and if you have some ideas, feel free to share those in the chat. There are only two basic types of questions that you can ask in polls, though, so just keep in mind they are a bit limited. Questions that require a single answer, so what we traditionally think of as multiple choice, and then questions that allow multiple answers. So the poll that we did at the start was an example of number 2. It was a question that allowed multiple answers to be selected. And there's a link at the bottom of the slide for you to dig deeper about how to use polling in meetings. I will say one thing, after you schedule your meeting, then you go into zoom.us, you go to the meetings area, you click on the meeting, and in the meeting settings, that's where you actually add the polls themselves. So you want to add the polls through Zoom before you get into your meeting. And that way, when you click on polls, it'll actually be there for you and you can just launch one. Virtual, whoops, I have the wrong heading on this slide. Sorry about that. This should say virtual backgrounds. So there is a way in Zoom that you can set a virtual background, and we're going to give you an option to play around with that in when we get into our breakout room. So hang on to that, but it's a fun option when it works. It doesn't work for everybody. I'm not exactly sure why. I do know that there are some minimum system requirements that might be the issue, but check it out, because if it does work well for you, then it might be an option that you want to use in your sessions. You can take your students all kinds of places. Now we're going to talk a little bit about whiteboards. So this is how whiteboards work. I'm going to go ahead and show you what the whiteboard looks like in Zoom. To do this, you have to screen share. So you click on share. And remember, when you get that kind of buffet of everything that's open, well, one of the options is whiteboard. So you choose there, choose whiteboard, and then you choose share. So let me show you how that works. I'm going to stop sharing. Choose whiteboard. And now you should be seeing my whiteboard. Can you confirm, Helen? Yes, I see your head shaking. Yes, great. And so I can start writing, right? Here's my initials, MPB, not easy to write with. I can also type. What did you have for breakfast? So you can add different things to the screen. You can erase parts of it. There are stamps that you can use to call out different parts of the whiteboard. And I can also click on save, and by clicking save, it downloads the whiteboard as an image file to my computer.
Michelle, can I add one thing? This is Helen. I know I'm taking you off track, but I just found out there's a setting where you can say enable participants' names so you see who it is that put that particular, and you were probably going to already mention that.
No, I wasn't going to mention it, but I have seen that setting. I'm kind of at setting overwhelmment, so I'm happy you reminded me about that. Yeah. I don't even remember where that setting is. It might be in the meeting settings. So I'm going to clear drawings and stop sharing, and then go back to my slides. So that's how the Zoom whiteboard works. You know, it's a little hard to use, to be honest. I'm not a big whiteboarder, but it is a little bit tricky. Something that's pretty cool though is if you do have an iPad and a digital pencil, this does work on, I had a friend try this out on a Surface Pro with a pencil, and it didn't work as well, but it did work. So if you watch this video later, we're not going to play this whole thing now, but this is a video of me in Zoom with just myself, and I was joined on my computer, and I was also joined into the same meeting on my iPad. And then I shared the whiteboard on my iPad, and it allowed me to annotate in a much more controlled manner. So let me just show you that part of the video. Start writing on my iPad. So of course you can simply use the pencil function, and if you'd like, grab a different color and make some annotations. It's pretty simple and straightforward, and it records right here on your screen. So again, that video, if that's something that interests you, I realize for some disciplines that's much more important than for others, but it does really add functionality if that's something that you need for your class. So for those of you who are interested, I encourage you to watch that video on your own in its entirety, and it might give you some tips. There's also an option for group annotation. And I should have this turned on now, and we're going to actually give it a try. The host shares their screen, and you can prompt students to annotate what you've shared, and it'll work with a whiteboard or it'll work with anything. So it's a great way to have some fun kind of collaborative activities like an icebreaker. So right now, what I'd like to ask you to do, folks, is follow the instructions on the slide. Above the slide, you should see something that says View Options. And if you select View Options and choose Annotate, we'd like you to draw and circle one of the emojis that represents how you're feeling. And you'll quickly get a sense of how this kind of starts to represent the group. Oh, I'm so happy to see so many people excited. And you can see how messy it gets, right?
I'm not finding the view option.
You don't see the view options?
No, where is that?
It should be above the shared screen. If you're in a full screen mode, try double clicking on your screen, and that should remove you from full screen, and you might see view options then. Look at the work of art you've created. Okay, so now I need to figure out how to go in, and this is where I got stuck last time too. Maybe I'll just try this. If I go to stop sharing, did that work? Yeah, that worked.
Yeah.
That's kind of a not as graceful way to do it, but yeah. So that's a fun activity. I mean, it's a fun way to use that feature. Sorry, folks. Yeah. Okay. Want to be sure I'm in the right spot. Oh, and see, it's still on. So okay. So if I can ask you all to not annotate the screen anymore. And I'm trying to remember how to clear it. Clear all drawings. There. Okay. So we'll start clean there. Okay, folks. You'll have an opportunity to play with that a little bit more in just a bit. So we're going to talk about breakout rooms now, and this is super fun. These are fun times. I'm going to come to all of your class sessions and draw all over your screen. Donna,
Michelle,
do you remember how to disable that? I can't remember where oh, there we go.
it's not Anna.
Okay, thanks. Were you trying to help me there, Stacy?
Yeah.
Okay,
You found it?
I think I have it disabled now. Okay, just to keep things a little bit cleaner, especially for those who might watch the archive. Okay, so let's talk about breakout rooms. I want to explain how this is going to work. The breakout rooms, we have a main Zoom room, and we're in the main Zoom room right now, okay? So there's the instructor, which in this case is me, and then there are the students, in which case is all of the attendees, and that's you, right? So when I enable breakout rooms, this is what happens. The participants get an invitation to join a breakout room. And when they accept the invitation, all of the participants or students leave the main room and they go into a small room with other participants. And they stay in those rooms until the instructor or the host ends the breakout rooms. We did this with a large group a little while ago, and we had some folks who didn't get in, and I'm not sure exactly what happened, but we're going to try it again. And the other thing I want to point out is that if there's a group of students who needs help, they can click a button and ask for help, and then the instructor can go into that room and help them out. I'm not going to be able to pop into every room because we're going to have oodles and oodles of breakout rooms, but we are going to try this now. As I get this set up, I want you to know that there is an option. There is a video, a great video that we didn't create, but it's a 2-minute video that walks you through the process that I am about to do right now, because I can't actually show you what I'm seeing, unfortunately. So let me get this started. Oh, you know what? I forgot something. I knew I was going to forget that. We have a document with a breakout room activity on it, okay? So everybody, this is really important, okay? I want you to look at the chat box right now. And Helen, do you want to walk them through that while I get things set up, what they're going to see there? We'd like you to click on the link that I just put in chat, and it's going to open the document that you see on your screen right now.
We're not seeing your screen. Did you be sharing?
Yeah, hang on. I turned off my share because I didn't know if I could do the breakout rooms while I was trying.
And maybe you can't, so people, okay.
Actually, it looks like it will work.
Okay, good. And so basically, while Michelle is setting up the rooms, I'll just have you look over the document with me. There's 3 activities that she's going to give you the chance to practice in the breakout room. And we have a much bigger group than we did last time. So last time, each breakout room had 3 people in it. So each person took an activity. This time, we're probably going to have more than 3 people in a room.
Yeah.
And so 3 of you will play around. If there's a little extra time, if you're speedy, maybe a 4th or 5th person can get a chance to try something. but you'll have a chance for everybody in the breakout room to at least experience these 3 things. Michelle, are you ready for us?
One more thing I want to add to that. We want you to unmute yourself, and we want you to speak to your peers. Last time we realized that that was something that not everybody understood. And I need to go into my advanced sharing options and be sure that everybody.
And you want to be sure to enable screen share. Thank you. And you don't have to unmute yourself now. In your breakout room is when Michelle means to unmute yourself.
Okay, so folks, I have activated the breakout rooms on my side. You have the link in chat for the activity, so please have that available. And I'm going to now create the breakout rooms. You should see an invitation on your side to join a breakout room.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Oh, I'm going to mute people.
If you unmute, we can hear you. That's how that works.
No.
Where do we
It's launching still.
breakout room?
Oh, did it not go through?
Oh, here
Now
it is.
Sorry, that was my fault. That was my fault.
Always look on the bright side of life. Dee-doo, 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 dee-doo.
So we invite you to accept the invitation for the breakout room. And now I am looking. So I see a lot of people still in the main room. Are you struggling? What's going on? Let me know so I can help you, or try to help you anyway. So is that Jennifer sharing her screen? I'm trying to understand. So I've got a lot of people that didn't go into a room. And so I'm trying to figure out if you can still hear me, you're in the main room. So did you not see the invitation to join a room? Anybody? Stephen Longo, James Lawrence, John Blakely, Denise, Rodney? Anybody? I'm trying to understand what's going on your side. Amy Strobel?
Yes, sorry,
Hi.
I was in a, hi.
That's the same thing I got yesterday.
Oh, perfect. Is this,
So what happened? Oh, you're
I need to interpret for whoever's
Goodness,
deaf.
I do apologize. I forgot about that step. I am so sorry about that. Okay. So I can put you both in the same room if you'd like.
And hold on, so there's actually 2, maybe 3. So Steve Longo, James Lawrence,
Oh,
and maybe someone else.
gosh. Then I'm going to let you use this. I'm going to let you use this room to
Okay.
go through the steps.
Okay, and Steve's just saying, okay, perfect, yeah. So I
Yes.
see how it would be then in a breakout session. That makes sense.
Great, great. Yes, and you're welcome to use this right now to go through the different tasks in the activity sheet. I'm going to jump into another room because someone's asking me for some help. So I'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay, and obviously like we have an ASL class, so I would do it differently because I wouldn't need to hear everybody, but we would need to see everybody. And I'm going to try to figure out how to do breakout sessions so everybody can, this tiles can be big enough to see people.
You could, but I think go to Anna's sheet right here and try to write on this document.
Oh, this is very frustrating. Oh, gosh.
While we're waiting for Michelle, oh, there's Michelle. While she's being quiet, I can never stop myself from talking. So I'm going to recommend that you finagle or bake a batch of brownies or whatever it takes to get a couple of your colleagues or friends or family members to come into a Zoom room with you and let you practice and play around. So
if you click on the little
have the ability
cat, oh, you got to go back.
or you're actually with your students.
I agree. I was thinking the exact same thing. Thank you.
Absolutely. And
Give me
as
that
I like
kick out
to,
of my activity.
as I like to point out, you are now the expert. So you can teach folks how to do other things.
So Michelle, as we were joining back in the main group, we had a question about how you selected the breakouts. Do you want to explain that again?
Yeah, I can explain it. It's really hard to explain when you can't see what's on my side, which is why that video is so helpful that's on the slide that I embedded. If you watch that video, it'll show you the host view of how to set up breakout rooms. But essentially, Helen, if you can control the mics, I think we might have a loose mic. essentially what I do is on my side, in my Zoom toolbar, I have a button that says breakout rooms. Now, none of you have that, but I have that in my toolbar because remember, I went into my advanced account settings and turned it on. So that was in the basic setup step. Once you do that, any Zoom meeting that you're in, that you're the host of, you'll have a button that says breakout rooms. You click there and then you'll see a window and it'll say, do you want to assign breakout rooms automatically or manually? So depending on the size of your group, if there's a particular reason why, you want certain students to be with certain students, you can choose manually and drag and drop the names into different groups. I simply chose automatic. And it said something, I'm trying to remember what it said. It said there will be, I think it said there'll be 40 some breakout rooms and there'll be 8 to 9 people in each room. So I clicked on 40 and I just kept adding rooms to get the number down. And I think it got down to like 5 or 6 and I think it maxed out at 50 rooms. So someone asked that question. I think we had more than 50 in the last meeting though, so I'm not really sure how that works. But did that help a little bit just to understand that process?
Yeah, thanks. I think so. I don't know who asked, but yeah.
And then when someone asks for help, the host gets a little notification that says, breakout room number 6 needs help. And then you can click join or there's an option for later. And so you can jump in then or jump in later. So what we're going to do now is actually open it for questions and answers. And this is, or for Q&A, this is the part when we'd like to invite you to use your microphone, but here's how it's going to work. Okay. I'm going to stick with this process. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask with your microphone, here's what I want you to do. Actually, let me see if I have a slide for this, just as a visual reference. I might, can't remember. Yeah, okay, shoot. Why does that keep happening? Okay, if you have a question, you can either type it in the chat, but I would like to invite those of you who'd like to speak to raise your hand. So the way that you do that is you click on the participant button in the toolbar. At the bottom of the participant window, you'll see a raise hand feature. And I'm going to call on those who raise their hand. We're not going to get to everybody probably, but I am going to go in order. So Susan, you are first. I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute yourself, Susan, and ask your question.
Thank you, Michelle. Yes, I teach dance, and so I'm trying to have them in breakout rooms to work on some choreography. I would like to visit them in each of their groups. Is it possible for me to see them in each of their breakout groups?
Yes, you can't actually see them all at once, but you have the option to just drop into different breakout rooms as you'd like. Do you still have that the Google Doc with the breakout room activity on it?
Yes.
Go to the second page and under, I think it's on there, under more videos, there's a video of Joseph Harrington, and he's actually showing how he uses breakout rooms to teach Spanish, and he'll show you how he jumps from room to room. So that would be helpful for you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. If you could mute your microphone, that would be great. And I'm going to ask Franklin Reynolds if you'd like to unmute and ask your question.
Hi, thank you for doing this. This has been wonderful. So when we went to the settings, I noticed that there is a personal meeting room that is an option for us. And I customized mine with my last name because that gave an option. And I'm wondering, is it possible outside of scheduling appointments that students could have that address and simply go into that room and meet with others as a virtual hangout whenever I'm not there, as long as I make sure that I've taken the step to disable the wait room function?
I don't know how you edit the settings of your personal meeting room. And there would have to be the option to allow others to join without you. And I don't know if that's an option there. I would simply recommend that you follow option 1, which is setting up a meeting. you know, and sharing that link.
Okay.
Let me, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry for cutting you off.
Sure.
Let me preface one thing. The personal meeting room functions, any meeting link, unless you've got like required registration, it's going to function just like a room, in the sense that, like, you know, if a student from class A clicks on it and there's 2 students from class B in it, they're going to be in the same room together, which isn't always what you want to have happen. So that's why in the option 1, we've recommended to create a link for each class, and then students can join that on their own. The other thing I was going to add, Franklin, is now that we're in this remote setting, I imagine that there's going to be more and more people using their personal meeting ID for meetings with colleagues. And it's best to not mix that up with students.
Okay.
Yeah, so I hope that answered your question.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And Elizabeth Miller, you are next.
Hi, I just had a question about doing classwork. So I like the breakout rooms, and I can see how that's equivalent to having students work at a table. But do you have any suggestions for how they could turn something in?
For how to turn something in, yes, I would suggest using Canvas assignments. So if you have a Canvas course shell and your module for that particular week has information about where you're meeting and some other content pages to help students navigate the information that you're sharing, that could also include the archive of your meeting. If you were to add an assignment, a Canvas assignment to that module, and just simply direct students to that assignment page to submit whatever it is that they're working on, then it will actually, it's a much easier way for you to manage, because you grade everything right through the grade book and you're not dealing with multiple links or messages or anything like that.
And do you have them have Canvas open at the same time as Zoom to do something like that?
You could, if you wanted it to be submitted on the fly, or, you know, it might make sense if I think something we need to be mindful of is, in this environment particularly, our students may not be available for a time period. There may be, you know, we've got students now who are watching kids and taking care of elderly family members. So if you do hold a classroom session and there's something that you want your students to produce, be mindful that students may need to do that after the session, after watching the archive. So it may make more sense, and I don't know what you've got in mind there, but it may make more sense to make it be due, you know, maybe 48 hours after you hold the live session to accommodate the needs of all your students. So hopefully that helps. And Helen, do you want to talk a little bit about drop-in hours?
How do you mean? Our drop-in hours?
Yeah,
or
just our
doing
instructional design drop-in hours, or are we
Sure.
still
We're
doing that?
still doing them this week and the next 2 weeks. And the hours are variable at the moment. So if you go to the link I just put in the chat, which is the CVC-OEI resources page, it has a big section about ID office hours. And those are just open-ended. You can come and ask questions. It's not a specific webinar or topic. So it's just, if you've got an individual question that you need help with, the ID office hours are available for you.
Yeah, that would be a great resource.
Does everybody know what ID stands for?
Instructional designer, sorry.
I typed it in the chat, but thank you for saying it out loud too.
These are our CVC-OEI instructional designers who are experts on online teaching using Canvas, so they can answer your questions, you know, in that realm.
Yeah. And my wonderful co-host Helen Graves is one of those individuals. And we also have Cheryl Chapman and Sean Valcarcel, who are also on the call, and they are instructional designers with CVC-OEI also. So we're here to help you as best we can, folks. We are at time. I am going to take one more question. Jay Phillips, if you'd like to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, this might be a dumb question, but when you were doing your share screen, I was wondering if I'm capable to share like a clip of a video that I purchased on Amazon through the share screen.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can share videos. The only thing you need to know is that you have to click the share computer sound in the lower left corner when you're choosing which screen you want to share. And that's it's pointed out on one of the slides. If you don't click that, then your students aren't going to hear the sound.
Got it. Okay.
It is helpful when you're showing a video, just maybe type in the chat and say, can you hear that okay? Just to be sure the music is, or the sound is coming across.
Okay, thank you so much for everything.
And ideally that video would be closed captioned, right? So
Yeah,
you can turn the captions on, and that's really the best way to do that.
Perfect, thank you.
Well, thanks so much everyone for being here. You've been a great group. I hope you've had some helpful takeaways. And we're gonna wrap things up here. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.